hear him say all those things, I go, wow, he seems like a pretty good guy.
I'd like to know more about him.
And that's right. That's why I'm here. On your birthday. That's why I chose this day. First of all, I want to say thank you for having me. Because I think really the pillar of any democratic process is the ability of folks to interact with candidates. And if I have one criticism about this process, because I've never held political office before, never run for office, I'll tell you why in a second I did. One of the things I think that we're missing in this process is the interaction between the folks that will be voting, which are the boss, by the way. Remember AOC did one time that says, like, she said, we'll run things, we'll make the decisions here. And we said, listen, we're employing you. You have this way around. But part of the process that I've experienced is there's not been enough interaction between folks who'll be the voters and the candidates. And the other problem is there's not been enough debates where the candidates can be showcased so voters can have that type of interaction and watch the candidates to see the difference between each one. We've had only one debate, right, Skylar? Yep. We've tried to schedule more. Unfortunately, the other folks in the race have refused to not have it. And that's why I think it's very important for us to go out and have these times to interact with voters. Because the way I see this is this way. I'm interviewing for a job, right? You are the folks. This is not like, no one's beholden to this. I'm interviewing for a job, and it's your responsibility to ask tough questions, interact with candidates, regardless of who they are. And what I found this cycle is that for the first time, I think, in my lifetime, I've seen ordinary citizens who have put their lives on hold to run for office. We watch in this, so you watch Bronson, who's come up here. We watch Heather, who I would say probably 10 years ago, she would have said, I never thought about running for office, but she became so frustrated, right? And Deepak, who's a medical doctor, by the way, putting his practice on hold to run for office. The way that you all have felt, the way that we have felt, the way that we've kind of watched our country go clearly in the wrong direction, right? Can we agree the country's going in the wrong direction? Yes. When we saw what happened in Afghanistan, how many of you watched that TV in horror? We watched how we stranded our troops, right? And the good folks that help us be successful there. The Afghan citizens on the ground that put their life in jeopardy to assist America. And you watch our administration leave $30 billion on the ground?
85 billion.
85 billion, thank you. That's the 30 billion was going to over to Ukraine. Yeah, thank you. 85 billion on the ground, and no one had the foresight to say, maybe we hold Bagram and let's keep it there. Let's sign a lease, which they said they would have done, by the way. And let us secure that. But we've got an administration that is putting this country clearly in the wrong direction.
It's owned by the CCP.
And you ask the question, in this cycle, why have you seen folks that never entertained running before? People that had good lives raising families, having businesses, that said, I'm going to put that on hold because I feel called to get involved. As you said, John, I'm from Pinellas County. I've lived here my entire life. I went to Clearwater High School, a product of a public high school in 1980 that was a lot like Rydell High School from Greece. We didn't have metal detectors. On a Friday night, the entire community came to a football game. We cheered on. That's what your social. That's how it was. I had a very idyllic, childhood because at that point, parents were involved in PTA. My parents were the president of PTA. I hated that fact at the time, right? But I look back on it and I understand why. My wife was a homeroom mom. She'd sit over there. almost every year of all of our children's elementary and middle school. They didn't like it either. Every single year. But you know what? You find out what's wrong with this country is parents are not involved enough in schools, right? They're not much involved in their children's lives, and we see what happens. So I said I'm from Clearwater High. After law school, I came back here, and I was a prosecutor here in the 6th Judicial Circuit. I prosecuted approximately 8,000 cases over 5 years. As a prosecutor, I was tasked by Jimmy Russell to head up a unit to drive out the sexual predators and the sexual businesses in Pinellas County. We had, at that time, if you know what was going on in Tampa, we had Mom's Venus, Tangalat. All those started moving over here, started with those types of organizations. They feed, as you know, it's a hotbed for child trafficking. And Jimmy Russell, those of you who are long enough knew, he was a no-nonsense prosecutor. I headed that prosecution and drove them away. We made a lot of arrests, a lot of prosecution, and then I headed up the largest trafficking cocaine cartel case in the history of Pinellas County. Usually those cases go to the feds. We did it at a state level. Approximately 100 kilos of cocaine were coming in Pinellas County. That's right, it was a very serious case. We tried 4 major trials. Someone said to me, is running for office that hard? Are you concerned? I said, I'm not concerned. I walked out of one closing argument in the parking lot and 2 of my tires were flat. In the middle of my closing argument, the mother of one of the drug traffickers stood up and said that she was going to kill me. In the middle of the trial. I got chased around the courtroom by someone who was shackled. True story. Had a contract taken out of my life. That was par for the course. But that's where you are, and that's where it started. I've got the endorsement of Bob Gualtieri. Someone said, how did you do that? Because every other candidate had the opportunity to do it, no one got it. The difference is I've known Bob Gualtieri since he was a young deputy, working on cases that I had. So when I said, why are you so pro-law enforcement, those are my roots. That's where I started. And then after Bob Gualtieri, I actually went undercover with now Tony Holloway, the chief of St. Pete, when he was a young cop at Clearwater. And that led when I was a young prosecutor, and then as I started my law firm, my relationship with Grady Judd, America's sheriff. Grady said to me, and I don't know if it's accurate or not, he said, Kevin, you're the only congressional candidate that I've endorsed outside of Polk County. It's true, and it's because of what I've seen as a commitment to law enforcement. So when I said defunding the police, we all watched in horror, didn't we, during the Summer of Love? Yes. Right? Summer of Love, what Summer of Love? Remember when they took Seattle and they coordinated off, and they're going to have their own special city, remember? Yeah, remember that what happened? And literally, all of a sudden, rapes, murders, lawlessness. Minneapolis voted to defund the police. All of a sudden, crime soared by 400%. Remember that? The good people that lived in downtown Minneapolis moved away. The city decayed. Crime went through the roof. And then on a very quiet Tuesday night, when the news wasn't around, they quietly voted to give more money back. Because they knew, you're exactly right, they knew what we knew, which is that is a fool's errand. I fight for law enforcement. That is my platform. That is my goal. I'm also pro-military. Someone said, why are you pro-military? Well, many reasons, because it makes common sense, right? The best defense is a good offense, right? The other thing is I got skin in the game. I've got 3 boys. My oldest one works in Manhattan. He's getting engaged. We have our first wedding. Excited about that in September. He works there in finance. My middle son went to the Naval Academy. He's a naval officer. He's in Virginia Beach. He's being transferred out to Coronado. My youngest one's at West Point. Cool. So I've got 2 active duty military. one of the biggest marital disputes that we have is I'm too much of a helicopter dad. I'm very, you know, those of you who have kids, they are the most, well, I don't have grandchildren, I can't speak to that, but to your kids, aren't they the most valuable things that you have? Aren't they your treasures? Isn't that your goal in life, to nurture, support, raise the best Americans that you can, right? To have pride in this country, pride in the community, and then of course the whole job, the whole base of a job of a parent is to work yourself out of a job, right? Kind of sadly, right? That's your job, to work yourself out of a job. So my involvement in the military not only involves my strong belief in having a strong military, but because I've invested my treasures to this country. And I wanted to have at least some ability to control what our country does. The other issue we have is we've got an economy that is spiraling out of control. Right? People say, how do we get there? Of course, the left will say, well, it's the same problem all around the world. The difference is, you look in Europe, their inflation rate is about 4% below ours. How do we get there? Pretty simply. We started printing money and printing money and printing money and printing money and giving it away with zero oversight. Do you know where the money went?
Yeah, but stolen.
Yeah, stolen. You know, to a lot of people that have spent it, put it away, and there's no accountability. One of the main jobs, I believe, in Congress is oversight. And my mission, based upon the 200 some odd jury trials that I've tried, the thousands of cross-examinations that I've done, would be take a position on a committee and provide oversight for your money that you spent, that you sent out into the ether, and find out where it went, and to hold those entities and folks responsible. Right? It's your money. It's your money. Someone asked me, I was in D.C., been there one time as a non-tourist, and one time to speak to the folks up there. And they said, who do you see yourself as if you go to Congress? I go, Trey Gowdy. Trey Gowdy. Because you know what? You know one thing I liked about him is he could ask questions and pull out the truth that no one wanted to talk about. And that's what we need to have. The best disinfectant is sunlight. Bring it out in the open so we can see it. So that's also one of my missions, is to provide oversight with my 34 years of experience. The other thing we need to do absolutely immediately is provide energy independence. Now, you know, why would we even have to talk about that? Why would we have to even discuss that? Why would we think this would be an issue? We had achieved it. It's like a guy who works out, gets down to 5% body fat, then he starts eating cake again. We've screwed this whole thing up. Right? We had it. We had it. We had it. And now what? We're going to depend on either what? We're dependent on Russia, and then of course we start complain about that. And they said we'll go down and get it from other countries that oppose socialist countries, right?
Venezuela,
yeah. Look how that worked out for them, right? Anytime you find pigeon on the menu in a country, you know that you picked the wrong country. And you know what I'm talking about. True story. True story. Pigeons aren't safe in Venezuela because there's no food. They literally taking, you know what, wheelbarrows for some money to buy bread. Right? So that's who we're going to rely on. So we got to get back to energy independence. How do you? Pretty simple. Open the Keystone Pipeline. You know, defense go, well, there's all those contracts out there. Pretty simple. Pretty simple. Pretty simple. But how do you do that? Because we've got Brandon in the office, right, for 2 more years, unless something else happens. But one of the powers of Congress is they have the power of the purse. They have the ability to hold up the funding for the projects of the president. So the one thing you do is you've got to apply pressure to evoke change. And I'm ready to do that. The other thing I would tell you is this: the energy independence starts there. The other one is the gas leases. You've got to realize that this, I believe right now, the administration clearly, their goal, and I think they're actually happy the higher that the gas prices go up.
They are.
Right? I mean, I think gleefully they are happy, and they could care less about us. When I say us, we're talking about the $100 a gallon fill up our car us, right? It's absurd. Average household is now spending $520 more a month because of Biden's inflation. How quickly did things change after Trump? How quickly here's the other thing. They go, well, we want to move to this green utopia, right? We want to move to this green utopia. What they forgot about is, where do we get our rare earth metals? China. From China. So let me get this straight. We pin all of our hopes and dreams, all of our energy going to the future on China, right? They've gone all in on China. Now here's the problem. When the pandemic broke out and we needed pharmaceuticals, we needed PPEs, it came from China and they gave us the middle finger. We need to get back to where we build things here, we manufacture things here, and we control our own destiny. It doesn't take a lot of, right? But why should we be reliant on other countries and their whim of whether or not they're going to give it to us or not at the price that they dictate? It's absurd. It is absurd. This administration right now is okay with that. You know, I spoke to a couple other groups, and they're like, listen, you sound like way too far right, too conservative. I go, listen, I want to control our own destiny. I don't want to be relying on anybody else. We need to get back to that America First agenda, the know-how, the excitement. I am a control freak. And let me tell you why. Because I want to control our destiny. We control it, not other countries. Right? Right? And that's true. Because then we can decide what we want. Because here's the problem. The next shortage you're going to hear about, and you know it's going to come, and no one's talking about it, is the food shortage. Listen, that's coming. Now, I remember during the Carter years, where interest rates were at 18%, housing market took a nosedive. That's where we're going, by the way. Gas lines, remember that? We will be having food lines. The reason why is, you know, the fertilizer base comes out of Ukraine and that part of Russia. That potash, that affects the crop yield. Which means if you got a farmer here in the U.S., he might get 7x, now he's going to get 2x. Price is going to go up. Never before in my life did I think I would go to Publix where shopping is not a pleasure. It's true. It's true. But you know what? We've got to come together as a country and for us as a county and make the decision that we want to elect strong leaders. Leaders are going to fight, and leaders that think it's okay to control the destiny of this country. Bold leaders that will ask tough questions, that will go into hearings and not have a problem if they hurt somebody else's feelings. Right? Right. Sometimes you got to break some eggs to make an omelet, right? That's the way it is. And I've got the experience to do that. The other thing is this. The goal of your congressperson is to be responsible to you. The second biggest fight that I've got in my marriage is from 30 some odd years of practicing law is I make the decision, because I've been told it's a decision, to answer my phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Because I know that when someone calls me, they feel that they are on fire. They've got an issue. They want answers. They want accessibility. Right? When you as a constituent have scheduled a cruise and your passport has not been renewed and you put a lot of money into it and you need to leave in 5 days, how about your congressman can speed it along? You want someone that's going to answer the phone and solve your problems? You want a Chick-fil-A service. Someone says, my pleasure, and handle it for you on the spot, right? That's what we need. I've done that for 34 years, and I understand that the first job of your congressman is to be responsible and responsive to his constituents, which is you, right? I got asked this question too. I got asked this question at the beginning of this, and they said, who do you think has done a good job in Congress or the Senate? Who do you think has done a good job? And I go, I'm going to give you a weird answer. And I've said it before, I said Joe Manchin. They go, well, he's a Democrat. And I said, and I've said it before, and we talked about it, I said the reason I think it is because he understood that his constituents, his state, his people, those were his people, came before the rest of the country and before his party. Right? The person that takes this seat, that becomes your congressperson, must put your interest, yours, this Pinellas County, over anybody else's. Because that's the job, right? You know, it's funny about Gus, because I've been up here talking to people in Palm Harbor and Tarpon Springs and Safety Harbor, and I even went to that strange city called Top of the World. Well, sorry, dear Jim, I know. You know, when I was little, you know, I go, I want to live in the Taj Mahal, which is at the top of the world. I'd drive there as a kid going, Mom and Dad, why can't we live there? But my point is that as you drive around this county and you talk to people, the first thing they say to me, I say, hey, I'm running for Congress in Palm Harbor. They go, Gus is for us. It's literally like it's heresy. I go, no, I go, Gus, I go, stop it. Gus is for us. So part of this has been the education to say, Gus is okay. His district now is an R plus like 155,000. There's like, he's going to cruise like nobody's business to another successful, win. So Gus is okay. Gus is okay.
Gus is good.
Gus is good. Yeah, Gus is good. I like that. I'm gonna make that now. Gus is good. So I was over. I'll be real quick. I was over at his house for Greek Easter, and he and his dad Mike were lamenting about that because they feel so tied to this district, right?
They do.
And they feel very indebted to this district. And I said to both of them, I put my hand and said, listen, I know you're concerned. I feel your pain. I feel that book, right? I feel your pain. I said the good news is, when I get elected congressman, you'll know that at least a sponger, because my wife went to Tarpon High, at least there'll be a sponger up in D.C. I don't think I can take the shoes of Gus, because he's done a great job. Listen, as I said, I'm interviewing for a job, and I want to take any questions you have. Happy to do that. Yes, go ahead, Deepak.
I've got a quick question. What do you think the responsibility of a Congress person would be between the 2022 elections and the 2024 elections? What is the most important thing that you believe in? I believe you will be a majority in the red. What do you think is
the most important thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the first thing you do, and I'm going to use my boating analogy, I think we've got a hole in our boat, and we're taking on water, and I think that's immigration, and I think it's the southern border. I've taken the position, and I've said it before, I think that we need to take a very aggressive, draconian position and literally shut down all illegal immigration until we get handled, because we don't have a handle on it. I mean, instead of allowing people to put up ghost planes, ghost buses, that they are turned away. Because it does two things. The person who's been here their entire life, who worked to get here, right? Who did it the fair way? That's like immigration inflation. Because they worked 3 or 4 years to get here, they got here legally, and then someone walks across and gets the same benefit. That's not fair. So I think the first thing you would do is we need to take drastic steps at our southern borders to secure it until we can get a handle on it, and it might be years to do that. Second thing real quick is we've got to do, this mantra is going to be, we simply can't afford it. We can't afford it. We are on a tipping point with our economy Our GDP is just paying, with 20% paying interest. It's a huge number. So, yeah, it's a huge number. We gotta stop that, or we're on a collision, and it's not gonna be pretty. It'll make any recession look like a cakewalk. So I think, Deepak, two things. As a conference, as a Republican-controlled conference, we will. The two things you've got to get a hold of is immigration, southern border security, and inflation. And you do that by stop spending, don't print more money, and then add that oversight component. Yeah.
Kevin?
Last question.
Okay, I'm going to ask Kevin a question that I will be asking Amanda Mackey and Anna Polina Luna. You're in a three-way race. I know there's four of you.
Sure.
You're in a three-way race, let's be honest.
Okay.
One of you is going to come out on top. And I'm not betting on who. Will you support the winner completely? Period. No other
It's a
question.
great question. So, Jim, and I don't think you read the debate. Because, and I've said the debate, and I've said this.
I don't like debate.
Well, I understand, it's fine. But I mean, the reason I said it, because I'm the only one that's addressed that. I addressed it in the debate, I addressed it at Bel Air, the speakers symposium, I addressed it in Palm Harbor. I addressed, I think the first thing I said at Community Patriots, I think, I'm not mistaken, is one of the first things I said is, I said that as a party, we need to unite. The goal here is to take over the House, take over the school board, take over the county commission, and I have said since the beginning of time, I am 100% committed to getting behind whoever the nominee is.
Thank you.
Because we need to work. We need to work together as a party. Now, Jim, I think it's also fair. It's also fair, and I would expect no less from Amanda, no less from Christine or Anna, if she shows up sometime, to make sure. No, I'd like her to show up. I would. So with Skylar knows read it. We would love that. We want to have that interaction. We want to have that. But here's the deal. I've said since the beginning, I would support the nominee. However, as I expect Amanda will, as I expect Anna will, because she is now sought after millions of dollars from DC insiders. That's what she's going to fund a race. But I'm going to point out the differences of why I think I'm a better candidate.
I'm not arguing that point.
Yeah, but whoever's in the nominee, I will support. I told Amanda that. I told Skylar that. Personally, I told Amanda that. I told Christine that. I told Aubrey Henson that. And I will tell you that, Jim. So that's because that's what we need to do.
That's a good answer.
That's what we need to do.
That's
right?
what I wanted.
That's what we need to do.
We have a number of races where we have multiple good
Great
candidates
candidates.
running.
Absolutely.
No matter whether it's for dog catching, mosquito abatement,
Sure.
whatever it is.
Sure.
But I want to hear, I am a lifelong Republican.
Yes.
I want to know that the winner is going to be supported by the losers.
Absolutely. That's the way it should be.
Absolutely.
And it'd be nice, Jim. You'd like to hear every candidate say that, wouldn't you?
Oh,
And I
you
hope
just
you
happen to be the first that I am asking.
Well, good. Well, good. Well,
Skylar knows I'm going to get
Well,
Amanda.
good. Yeah, sorry. Sorry, Jim.
That's all right.
Thank you.